going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now,
Jimothy.
Now, ladies and gents, I have got a treat for you guys. What I thought I would do is share a duel that I had with my buddy some time ago now, playing Plunder Patrols versus Shaddolls Outlich, I believe. Now, the reason why I wanted to show you this duel, ladies and gents, is mainly because of some of the technical aspects of the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! That can be quite difficult to follow at times. And there's a few misplays in here that I will point out as we go along. But this is just basically a preview of what is going to be coming to the channel, ladies and gents, which is more live duels. Now, this is the whole reason that I started this channel, just to be able to have live duels, to be able to understand the game better and just make better decisions when I'm playing the game, and hopefully translate this into some competitive tops and whatnot. So this is where the channel was intentionally going, but obviously COVID hit and it's been a little bit of a difficult one. So yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, we are into the duel, and I believe my buddy has decided to go first, or won the die roll, might I add, and he has set one card, interesting, and he decides to pass turn, which is very interesting indeed. He must have drawn a terrible hand. Now, starting off, obviously I'm playing Plunder Patrols. Ideally you want to start off with one of your power cards, which would be either your red beard or your white beard, and follow that up with some kind of negation or some kind of spell or trap. So in this instance, I managed to start off with Plunder Patrol Whitebeard, which is possibly the best monster to normal summon. I'll go straight into a Silent Angler for easy special summon. And then from that, I go into my Adamantipator Risen Dragite for that spicy negate, which will allow me to trigger Whitebeard's effect because he was sent from field to graveyard to special summon a Plunder Patrol monster from the deck. Now, because I've got a negate on the board, I'm feeling pretty confident. So I'll shuffle up my hand and I actually consider what my options were in this situation. And looking at my hand, I'm looking pretty stacked, to be honest. So I just decided to just not overplay, not overcommit to anything, and just attack with both Redbeard and Dragite for a clean 4k to the face. Fortunately, my opponent has no response whatsoever, and then in main phase 2 I decided to set two cards. Now, the two cards that I set were, one was Plunder Patrol Booty and the other was Breakthrough Skill. Breakthrough Skill, interesting tech in this deck. It's something that I'm still messing around with. I am planning to change it, but it's a nice discard for that if you wanted to get the search off his field spell. Now, right here, ladies and gents, we have our first misplay. So my buddy decides to activate Shadow Fusion, and I think on Shadow Fusion decides to negate it with Dragite. Now, he actually chains Effect Veiler, but if you didn't know, ladies and gents, Effect Veiler can only be activated on your opponent's turn, not on your own turn. So that was a bit of a misplay, which leads to a bit of a different outcome in terms of the game state. But because that wasn't picked up, we just obviously continued with the duel, and that was an accepted game state. In a tournament, however, that would kind of be frowned upon if it was picked up, but nonetheless we decided to carry on. I had no response. I didn't even think about what he was doing in terms of like the Effect Veiler, which was interesting. But anyway, he decides to send Nel Shadow Aerial and another card to the graveyard to be able to special summon from his extra deck via fusion summon one Shadow Fusion monster. In that instance, is definitely going to be Shadow Construct. That gets your plays going. That's the thing that you want to see on board straight away. So he decides to go into Shadow Construct, going using a Ghost Ogre and a Nail Shadow from deck. And he decides to activate both Shadow Construct as Chainlink 1 and his Nail Shadow Aerial as Chainlink 2. So I actually read Aerial's effect here, but it didn't register to my mind. So to be able to activate Aerial's effect, you have to pay the activation cost, which is to target cards in the graveyard. Now, he was obviously going to target my graveyard, but in response to my buddy activating Nail Shadow Aerial's effect, I believe I chained Plunder Patrol Booty. So obviously targeting his construct, Booty would then special summon a monster if I choose to from the graveyard, or I could add it to hand, but obviously I'm going to special summon Whitebeard from the graveyard. And Aerial's effect should have actually fizzled here instead of banishing my my Silent Angler in the graveyard. But hey, it is what it is. Obviously hindsight is a wonderful thing. So obviously we continue with the plays. He decides to dump a few cards. I believe he dumps, I can't remember what he dumps here actually. That's quite interesting. Yeah, I believe he dumped Schism. Yeah, he's looking for Schism, and I believe he's going to dump the Schism. Now, obviously, I'm reading my cards, looking at Breakthrough Skill, thinking about my options. So he dumps Schism off Construct's effect to obviously continue his plays. So he's just shuffling up here, deciding what he's going to do next. Now, it's interesting because obviously, he only set one on his first turn, and he still has cards in hand. Now, that set card, I'm a little bit worried about. It could be any kind of thing, but he decides to go into a Gravity Soldier, I believe, and send the Gravity Controller, sending Shadow Construct to the graveyard to trigger Shadow Construct's effect to add back the Shadow Schism. In response to Shadow Construct's effect, I decide to tag out my Whitebeard to special summon a Plunder Patrol list from these extra deck. He adds his Schism back, proceeds to set Schism without shuffling his hand. That's something you should do, ladies and gents, just to keep your opponent guessing, because obviously you don't want to telegraph your plays and make it easy for your opponent to play around what you're doing. So I decided to check the graveyard here, just looking for some different attributes, seeing if there's anything that I can make a play off. Considered my options and decided to special summon my Whitebeard back to the field via Plunder Patrol List's effect, because we are still in the main phase. So yeah. So he proceeds to set one because he hasn't actually normal summoned yet. I decide to tag out my Plunder Patrol Redbeard to special summon a Blackbeard from the extra deck. Now, what you want to do with Plunders, ladies and gents, is at least special summon each of your extra deck monsters at least once, because then they can be actually live off Plunder Patrol Booty if you've summoned them correctly, because they can be then summoned back to the field. If they're not summoned correctly, ladies and gents, which you'll see me doing at a later date, you'll understand that you can't actually special summon them again to the field because they haven't been correctly summoned. So my buddy decides to go into battle phase, and he decides to try and activate Gravity Controller's effect by bouncing both cards back to the extra deck. I actually chain Breakthrough Skill here to negate Gravity Controller's effect until the end of the turn, and in response he actually flips Super Polymerization, which is an interesting card, not the least, especially in Shaddolls. So he decides to use my Plunder Patrol ship list and his face down card, which I believe was a Squamata. Now, I actually misplayed here again, where I sent my Redbeard to the grave. It didn't actually have to be sent to the grave because it was actually equipped to my Blackbeard. But anyway, it is what it is. He decides to obviously organize his chain links as Construct and Squamata will be obviously chained, and both of those effects going through. So he decides to dump a Wendy as well as a, let's see what he dumps here. I believe, yeah, he goes to dump a Shadow Incarnation, which is really, really interesting. Obviously allowing him to banish it and another Shadow monster from the graveyard to flip a monster up. So I decide to tag out my Blackbeard. Now, this is what I was saying about being correctly summoned. So my Blackbeard is tagging out, and I believe I go into another Plunder Patrol ship list. Now, I've burnt through quite a lot of resources, so if List dies now, there's no way of me getting him back on the field because I only run 2 in my deck at the moment. And you only really need 2, but obviously I was a bit gung-ho with regards to my effects. I potentially could have went into a different card, but hey, it is what it is. So off Wendy, he decides to set a Beast. And my board is still looking a little bit weary, mainly because I've burnt through quite a few resources in able to just like play the game basically. So obviously we're thinking here, I believe he's deciding what he needs to do. I think we were discussing what's happening with Gravity Controller, but obviously Gravity Controller was his effect was negated, and it only works on monsters in the extra monster zone anyway, which is what we were confirming. So he decides to try and crash into my Emancipator Risen Dragite. So I believe that this effect should have actually went through because as far as I understand it, Shadow Construct's effect to blow up a special summon monster is not an activated effect. As long as the conditions are already met, it just activates regardless. It's kind of like a continuous effect, but I could be wrong with that, ladies and gents. So definitely get at me in the comment section below as to whether or not that play should have happened, because I actually negated it with List, and List negates activated effects, which obviously popped his card. And then when he tried to add a card back from the graveyard, I actually Ghost Bow and Haunted Mansioned it, so he couldn't get no graveyard recursion. And I also get a search off List because it popped a card and negated a card off its effect. So again, he's not looking in the most healthiest of situations, checking his graveyard to see what potential options he has, which is interesting. He does have a few options. He could have actually flipped up his Shadow Beast to get a little bit of a draw, or potentially he could have, definitely could have flipped up his Shadow Beast to get a draw, and then maybe link 2 into a Crush Sheep and then activate his Shadow Schism, which I know he's got set. But anyway, I'm still thinking on turn activates List is effect while I attempted to, and then realized because Blackbeard was not special summoned, that effect would not be able to go through. So again, thinking, I decide to activate my field spell. Still waiting on my opponent's response to see if there's any kind of response to that. I do have Plunder Patrol Booty in the Spell and Trap card zone, so I do have a bit of recovery play if he manages to get rid of any of my monsters again, whether he's got another Super Poly or something like of that nature. But no, I decide to go into a nice little tech which I've put into this deck, which could easily be teched out, but Geomathmech Final Sigma, very big problem. He decides to Ghost Spell. Obviously I can chain List in response to his Ghost Spell to negate the activation, destroy the card. Because that went through, I do believe that you should get the add off this, even though the card was sent to the graveyard. Again, get at me in the comment section below whether or not I would get the add off List's effect, because effectively the card was already in the graveyard. So could it be destroyed? I do not think so. So it says then you can. But anyway, obviously Whitebeard has gone to the grave, and then off List's negation I decide to add a emblem. So now we have Redbeard on field, we've got List, we've got Blackbeard equipped to it, so List is now on 2500. We've got a Geomathmech Final Sigma in the extra monster zone, ladies and gents. And to be honest, I'm actually overplaying here because I didn't realize, well I did realize, but I didn't realize until late that Geomathmech Final Sigma will actually do double battle damage to monsters, and he's unaffected by monsters. So our target is Gravity Controller here. All of this was very unnecessary. A target is Gravity Controller, and then I decide to special summon a monster from the graveyard via Plunder Patrol Booty's effect. So I decide to special summon Golden Hair, which is interesting. And again, game is on board, ladies and gents, because Geomathmech Final Sigma is on 3k, Gravity Controller is on a k, he's unaffected by card effects. So if I basically just crash or smack into his Gravity Controller with Geomathmech Final Sigma, double battle damage would mean he would take, 4000 attack. Well, he'll take 4000 damage, which is exactly how much life points my opponent's got left. But anyway, I decided to go for Bahamut Shark, which was completely unnecessary. He then chains Shadow Schism, which I knew he had set, which is interesting. So it's obviously we want to see what he's going to go into here. So he banishes his, I believe it's a Construct and a Nail Shadow Aerial to go into Shadow Construct, funnily enough. And then because he has a light on board, he actually has the ability to send my Plunder Patrol ship List straight to the graveyard. So in this instance, he's gonna get a dump off Shadow Construct. Interesting to see what he actually dumps here, because the board state is a little bit weary, and he does have a little bit recovery because obviously he's got He's got Shadow Beast in the graveyard, which he can flip at any time with Rest Shadow Incarnation in grave. But again, he's thinking on what to send, so he sets Squamata. I believe he sends a Wendy to special summon a Squamata into face down, just as a bit of disruption. I'd then go to proceed with my plays to obviously special summon out my Totally Awesome. And then I believe, ladies and gents, thinking on what I'm doing next, and then it occurred to me that hey ho, game could potentially be on board, mainly because we've got Geomathmech Final Sigma sitting in the extra monster zone, unaffected by everything, and with the ability to do double battle damage. It occurred to me that I could actually crash into his gravity controller, and I think that's what we discussed in a moment. Yeah, so there it is, ladies and gents. Obviously I let my opponent know what's going on, and the game is done and dusted. And I believe we were saying why we didn't actually do that from the start. We will never know. Sometimes those things happen, it's not always apparent to you, and that is game, ladies and gents. So an interesting game nonetheless. A few misplays here and there, but definitely has been a while since we have played any duels. Well, ladies and gents, we find ourselves at the end of another video. Did you enjoy that live duel? If so, get at me in the comment section below and let me know, and we will definitely be bringing some more live duels to the channel in the upcoming months, so keep it tuned here, ladies and gents. And if you did enjoy this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I will definitely see you guys in the next video. Hope you enjoy. Peace.